One of the little jobs that we've got that's we just been ignoring are these pads, rubber blocks. This goes underneath the fuel tank. Here's the new one. The new one's it's pretty close to the same, but the new ones don't come with any holes in them. And drilling this rubber is not the easiest thing going. So what we did, we drill a hole in there the best we can. I'm sure somebody probably makes some kind of special drill a hole in the rubber without catching it, but really just wants to shred. And then we kind of looked around the shop here, and we have our Dremel with a little ball grinder on it, pretty aggressive, and we just go ahead and run that Dremel through there to bore the hole nice and clean, and then take the Dremel and just kind of make a chamfer there so we can put a flathead screw in it. So that's just one of those projects that we've been putting aside, and we really have the blocks on the back side of the rear bulkhead there go between the fuel tank and the rear bulkhead. They're pretty good sized, and we need to we've been avoiding that job for the same reason, that we need to drill some holes in those blocks to be able to attach them, and just haven't really put a lot of thought into how we're going to do that. Probably not the safest way to do that job, but what happens is it puts a hole in there, but it's really not easy to put a screw through there. So we take our little Dremel here and just go ahead and start to just run it in there. You gotta be careful. It's gonna just burn its way or melt its way through there, really. Just go a little bit at a time. Kind of messy, but at the end of the day we end up with a nice clean hole through there. We can put a screw in there and it'll be nice and tidy. And there you go. As I said, we still have to get in there and put a little bit of a chamfer there for we can put a countersunk screw in there. But we'll just take the head of the Dremel there and just kind of grind a chamfer in there, and it'll be fine. We are back trying to fit this side panel on, quarter panel, whatever you want to call it. What we've done, we started with the door pillar, and then just now we put in the new piece of wood to the rear, and we've left the middle portion out. since that seemed to be the trouble spot on the other side. Got our sheet metal wrapped around, fitting pretty decent. What we end up with here, though, I've got a big gap here between the corner piece and the outside piece that I don't quite understand. We've got a big gap right in here, and we're in our groove here, and this is where the metalwork wants to be. So in order for the wood to be underneath it, the wood needs to be there. So my first inclination is just to make a shim to go in here and fill that. It's about the thickness of my finger, so it's probably 3/8 of an inch or more. And I mean, the only other alternative is, which I really don't want to do, is to cut this bodywork down through here, kind of like we did on the other side, tuck it in and re-weld it. But man, you shouldn't have to take a brand new piece and cut it. And kind of lost there because the old one fit okay. It seemed like we had that on there with the old one. I don't really remember if we had this down over top of the old piece of wood or not. So I'm going to have to put some more thought into that, into how I correct that. Don't really want to make the car any wider than it's supposed to be. Some of that you can see here would need to be tucked in. You can see that or not. We're just got a little movement there. We need to roll that in a little bit. So we'll have to really have a good look at things and figure out how we're going to fix that. We're not quite up against the edge of the inner fender well there. So really, I'll take the wood out, leave the wood in. This is where, based on this slot back here, and that little return is in the slot, that's where that's going to be, coming around there. So hard to say if they made this piece, didn't quite make it the same, made it from a different car. Who knows what they used to make this piece? Maybe this radius is just a little bigger. I suppose I could do some measuring, compare it to the other side, or see if I have the old one somewhere, the old panel, see if the radius is the same. But I think maybe we'll have a think about that and wait till tomorrow. Back working on this quarter panel again. This is tiring. There's just no... It's like trying to build a puzzle in midair. There's no reference points. I just don't know. We're getting there. We got the wood fitted on pretty much all the way around. We'll see if we can get the metal to fit. Got a huge gap here. These pieces just aren't fitting the way I'd like them to fit, but they'll be underneath the metal, so I can fill these gaps before I put the metal on. Just not fun. I think I like things that clearly bolt together. I'm sitting here working on this car, and it just got me to thinking, actually, about what we really have here and the technology that they used in 1947. Obviously, safety wasn't the primary concern. You have a steel frame chassis with an engine and transmission and rear end hung to it that moved the thing around, but then they put the people in it, and the people sit on these nice seats. I got them covered up with trash right now. Shouldn't do that, but get lazy. But the seats are mounted only in the front, not in the back. So I guess they hope your butt holds them down. And a couple of little screws in the front to a sheet of plywood. And the plywood is bolted somewhat to the frame that's bolted to the other frame. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, they certainly didn't intend the driver to stay with the car in the event of a crash. The doors are almost an afterthought. The steering wheel would just come right back and mash you in the middle of your body if you crashed in the front. And the rest of it is just more or less a wooden box surrounded by sheet metal. There's no crash protection at all. So, you know, times have changed. Things are a little different. In those days, 1947, you didn't go out on the freeway and whiz around at 80 miles an hour. And people weren't driving giant pickup trucks and SUVs that would run over you in the blink of an eye. Literally run over you. And we didn't have 80,000-pound semi-trailers barreling down the highway. So it was a different time, and the other vehicles on the road were similar to these. I mean, some of the American passenger cars had gotten pretty bulky by then, and they certainly had delivery trucks and things that could do damage, but I suspect that the average speed limit was 50 or 60 miles an hour. You had some Hellraisers that would zip around when there was nobody else around, but for the most part, people didn't drive like they do today, and they certainly obeyed most of the traffic rules. That's the big thing today, is nobody obeys the traffic rules, so you really got to watch yourself. But you know, these cars nowadays, you don't drive them every day. You take it out on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning when it's hopefully quiet, and go for a little ride. Take it to your car show or your MG meeting, and or find yourself a backcountry road and have yourself a little fun. But maybe I got to spend a little less time thinking and a little more time working. I really want to try to hang this piece of sheet metal on the car, and what I did, rather than cut the sheet metal in the back, and I may still have to do that, is I straightened the return out there and let it overlap in the back. And in theory, what I can do is trim that in the back, shorten it up all the way in the back there where the return is. So we're still fitting pretty good on our doorpost, and we're on top of our wood, up and around, and I think now we've just got to put a little shim, perhaps 1/8 of an inch or so, in the back here to get this tight and go around. And then what we may have to do is trim this at the very edge and put another return at the back. So we'll carry on here and see what we can get done. Yeah, after some massaging and tweaking, and I think we got this side looking pretty good. We've got our corner fitting good here. We just had put a little cut here to get a little more radius. We may put another one here since we got a little bump up there, and then we can, once we get that fitted, we can weld them back up. And what we've done over here is kind of shortened this up. I've still got to bend this return in a little bit more so it tucks into that groove, but I think that'll work for us. It looks pretty sturdy, you know, for a wooden wagon, and I think that'll get the job done for us.